Okay, we'll get started. Definitely exciting week coming up. Everything kind of magnifies as far as how we look at things. Chance to play Eastern Illinois, very good football team, ranked team, has done well on the national scene. So this will be our first big test to see where we're at as a football team, and I know the players are excited about it, coaching staff's excited about it, and we're looking forward to going to Charleston and see what type of team we got. So from there, I'll open it up to questions.
How much does last year's outcome in game influence the motivation this year for you guys?
Well, I think anytime you come up short and you look at our last 2 years, you could argue that the game that kept us out of the playoffs is this game, as you could argue about any other loss. But especially last year with the 2 overtime loss, and I was looking at the stats from last year, and the fans are in for a treat because last year we were at 197 plays ran by both teams, only one turnover in the course of that game. You got a 2 overtime type game, so it was a battle back and forth, could have gone either direction, and they made the play at the end to win it, and that's how the game works. So naturally you remember that, but they're too good of a team for us just to rely on motivation to make this happen. We have to be very sound in our offensive and defensive schemes. They're a different team than last year. There's still some similarities, but they've also brought the philosophies from the schools that the new coaches have come from, and so it's a little bit of a different team than they had last year.
Did you learn anything about Eastern from their matchup with Minnesota last week?
Well, anytime you get to watch a game, so you know exactly what they're doing. It sheds a lot of light on what to anticipate. Nationally, every team changes things from week to week, so there's always that element. But they gave Minnesota, I think the score is deceiving. Offensively, they moved the ball up and down the field. Fairly successful against Minnesota, so they have that high offensive potential, and defensively, I know they gave Minnesota a lot of difficulty just with their schemes and stunts and bring a lot of pressure. Very physical team, so this is going to be one of those classic battles that will probably go down to the end again.
They struggled with turnovers last week. Do you think that's an area you guys can capitalize on?
Well, that's an area that they'll be correcting. And a couple of those turnovers extremely costly. One on their own 5-yard line, and then one going in where they're about to score on the 4-yard line. So right there's 14 points that they didn't take advantage of, where they gave up, and those are costly, especially first game. I think they made a lot of first game type mistakes, especially with the new staff. That takes a little time to gel. So the saying, most improvements from game 1 to game 2. I expect that for us, and I definitely expect that for them.
Will the linebacker that got tossed for Eastern, will he be eligible for this game?
Right now, that's under review, so that's not our call.
Is it fair to say they're a little bit more methodical offensively, whereas last year they were trying to run a play every 6 or 8 seconds?
Well, they still run a lot of plays. You look at the stats from the Minnesota game, they were 80+ on the play count, so they do have a up-tempo approach to the game. They're not quite as rapid fire as what we saw last year, but that doesn't mean they can't go to it. So I think they have those capabilities. If they want to kick it into high gear, they can do it. If they want to get back to more of a line up and call the play they want type mentality, I know they have that in their arsenal also.
They employ 2 quarterbacks. Do you expect that to be the theme throughout the whole game, where they're going back and forth, rotating between the 2?
Well, I would expect they would probably do that again. The 2 quarterbacks are a little different in nature. Whitlow he's an athlete. He's going to be a handful to defend. We got to be aware where he's at. As a potential run threat. And then Manley, he's a good thrower. I mean, he can get the ball downfield, and he can make all the tough throws that you're looking for. So they have a good combination, 1-2 combination, and we got to be ready for both.
feel your speed on defense gives you, I guess, makes you feel a little bit better about trying to defend a running quarterback like that?
Well, you know, we need to be aware of it. I guarantee you that's part of our game plan, too, is just trying to keep a quarterback like that in check. I don't know if you shut him down. I think, you know, you watch the games from this past weekend even, you know, watching the Florida State, Oklahoma State game with two athletic quarterbacks. I mean, those made a difference there. I mean, that's something that, you know, if the pass isn't there, they take off. They can get 15, 20 yards on a scramble. It's just the nature of the game. Probably more so than anything else, you can't let that be demoralizing to you defensively, because that is just an element of their game.
And Coach Dameron's more of a defensive-minded coach. What has changed defensively for them this year now that he's come in, would you say?
Well, again, you only have the one game to evaluate, plus they were going against Minnesota, who was going to, I mean, Minnesota was going to run the football. I mean, so they allowed them to do some things. You know, that's one thing that Eastern Illinois, they overloaded the box extremely. Those are things that we can't allow them to do. So, you know, that's something that offensively we're going to need to be able to adjust as the game progresses to what they're doing, to see if they're going to continue to be as aggressive as they were, or are they actually going to, you know, back up and you know, play a little more base. So that'll be the chess game going on.
Offensively from you team, are you guys gonna kind of look to do a lot more running, or are we gonna see some more passing this week against Eastern?
Well, there's no sense in really telling you that until we get to the game. You know, we got to have both ready. You know, I think that's our weapon. That's who we are. We got the capabilities to throw the football. We got the capabilities to run the football. So, you know, that's the key for us, is to have a good combination of the two, and whatever's working the best that day will be the one that we probably stick with the most.
And how dynamic do you feel like your running game is right now?
How what?
Dynamic?
Well, again, I don't know if we were tested to the highest degree this past week, so this is the big test for us to see where our run game actually is, where our protection is, where our passing game is. Same thing with their defensive schemes. You know, so that's still a part of us finding our identity. I think we feel good about the potential that we have and the capabilities we have. We think we have the schemes that can allow us to be successful. Now it's just a matter of the execution phase and actually going out there and doing it.
Originally, you developed your 3-4 to counter the option against some teams in lower division. Is it a lot different, your 3-4 now, than when you developed it for that purpose? Or can you switch them back and forth in case you ran into an option team like Eastern?
No, the 3-4 is very option friendly, so it doesn't take a whole lot to adapt and adjust, kind of take on that option defend mentality.
Do you expect to get anybody back, Ken Malcolm or Keith Trey or Adam Feeney?
Yeah, Feeney, we practiced last night, and Adam Feeney went full go, so he's good to go. And I know with Keith Trey, he's right on the verge of getting the okay, so we just got to wait and see there. You know, Ken is probably still a week or two out.
What about Ethan Worth?
He's fine. He practiced last night, and you know, a little sore, but that's it.
You mentioned it's your first big test. It's also your first big test as a defensive coordinator. Is there any extra pressure that you're putting on yourself because of that?
Well, I think anytime you take on that responsibility, you always add the pressure of you know, getting your players game ready. So there's definitely more attention to detail that's going into it. You know, having a couple extra days have been helpful too, just to you know, put the package together. So you know, right now we feel good in our game plan prep, and you know, it's just kind of now if the players what they feel comfortable in, you know, because of the nature of the team we're playing, they'll give us a lot of different looks. Anytime you have a lot of different variations coming at you, you got to keep your plan somewhat simple. So you know, that's always the challenge, is you know, to have some complicity with your, you know, the simple approach. So you know, we're just trying to get the right feel.
Do you feel like this series has really kind of turned into a pretty good rivalry the last couple of years?
Oh, no doubt. I think even first time that we played, it was a pretty heated contest, and I know last year's game was extremely heated, emotional, so there's no reason to think that this year's game is going to be any different. So this would probably be one of our, games that definitely has that rivalry feel to it.
Anything else?
Coach, I'm doing a story on Thor this week. Can you talk about his progression from when he came here as a redshirt to now in his senior year?
Can I ask him to leave the room? No, Thor's one of those success stories that makes you stay in coaching. He came in, wanted to make the football team, tried out as quarterback, and just wasn't what we needed at the quarterback position. So then he wanted to be a part of the team any way that he possibly could, and that's where we talked about the possibility of snapping, something that we had a snapper in place, but basically what he was looking at is having to go for a couple years without any opportunity of really seeing playing time, just to develop his snapping ability. And naturally he had some ability in doing that, otherwise I wouldn't have encouraged him to keep working on it. But he just pursued it himself, and in that process he was our filmer for a while. He just did everything that he could just to be a part of the football team and be around the guys, and then he got to a point where we took him very seriously as a long snapper, and Jason Stegman finished his senior year, and it was Thor's turn, and Thor was ready to step up and perform well, and that's kind of been our story for even Jason Stegman, the guy before him. He did the same thing. He was a walk-on that pretty much just showed up on our doorstep and kind of developed his game while the other snapper was in place, and so we've been fortunate in those terms to get the high quality. Both Jason Stegman and Thor Hadfield are at the college level. You're not going to find many better snappers.
Coach, can you talk about the momentum-wise, how important is it for you to be a jumping off point and be the ranked team on the road and get a Division I win this week?
No, big game. It's big. It's you're not going to try to downplay it. But every game on our schedule is going to have some significance to it, and especially when you get into conference play, they're all big. So, but this is the first one. This is the game this week. It's one that can definitely improve our status early in the season. So that's why it's important, and if we're successful, it's so the players, the view will be a little different after the game. If we're not successful, we still got the full season in front of us. So we got to keep things in perspective too.
Anything else for Coach?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Well,
John? John? Are we going that way?
Sounds like everybody came
is he gonna drive up to Charleston? I gotta go to a wedding.
I have thought about that possibility.
Hopefully I'll be done by 6 o'clock.